fear of posting, and then actually the strategy of how they can do it effectively. Like, what advice would you give someone starting out or maybe early in the process about how they can approach the strategy of building a brand on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, if you have under 1,000 followers, for example, or even a couple thousand followers, the easiest way to get started, get your face out there, get your name out there, is to optimize your profile. So strong headline that people can see when you comment on things, and then when they go to your page, they can read more about you in a clear and concise way that makes you seem credible about one specific thing. But just posting on to your own followers is just kind of shouting into the void. LinkedIn does a much better job of surfacing your content to followers than other platforms like Twitter, but it still probably is not sufficient to do that. The best way to do it is in my opinion, is to find a couple really big accounts who have the followers you want. They're in your niche, and then just let yourself get alerted when they are posting, or just keep tabs on when they're posting. And as soon as they post, try to leave a very short, concise, but thoughtful reply. It can be funny or it can be, insightful. I see that insightful posts tend to lead to more conversions of followers, but funny posts tend to get more engagement. So get those replies up there. If they show up on, one of the top replies on that post, you ride their coattails, you get a bunch of impressions, some percentage of those people convert to your followers.
I'll just add to that. I mean, great. I love that tip. Kind of adding on what he said is your persona of your profile. A lot of people don't have their profile built out, the right keywords, even like a great headshot. I use the same headshot for all my profiles. I'm known for wearing black every day. I just have a nice picture of me smiling. My profiles too, with your job experience. So I'm on the board a lot of companies. I have my own companies. Just even like the logo, like having the logo and not just some generic picture, and then describing what it is you do at that company. So I look at it as people are always stalking you, searching you. Make sure they have a great first impression. Make sure they see something that could lead. It's part of a funnel. So like it goes to a site, it goes to somewhere else where you can turn that into a customer. Another thing which I love is LinkedIn newsletter. So we do it every Wednesday. We send out to a newsletter, but people subscribe. So it's easy to do and it goes directly to their email. We started doing this, I don't know if it was like 4 or 5 months ago, but it's just another great way to go right to their inbox, people that follow you, easily to turn them subscribers, staying on top of mind. And then the thing that I mean, just for my background, I'm a huge advocate of video content. I've actually treated LinkedIn, it's almost like an experiment for me. I've treated it almost like a social platform. I'm sharing beyond the business side, me talking about how to grow companies, video production, advice, and tips. I'm also bringing people into my life and bringing more of the social side. Like, hey, here's what I'm doing today. I'm out here in Iowa, or I'm on a trip, or I'm at an event. So I'm making it more of a social profile, not just like, hey, I'm educating, and being consistent with the content and showing up. I mean, LinkedIn has turned into so many opportunities. I preach to our founders of companies have investment in. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is built out. I invest in companies. We raise capital. Like, I look at the founder's profile. I look at their brand. If they're lacking on their personal brand, we're going to be less likely to get behind that company. So those are some of the things I look for. How can you build out the personal brand? How can you build out a profile? But how can you build a great first impression? So when people are coming to your page, could be a potential client, potential investor, they have a great first impression, which leads to a DM or a call.
Yeah, I love the point about the newsletters too. I discovered these earlier this year. If you start a LinkedIn newsletter, it sends a notification to every single one of your followers, and all they have to do is one click on that notification.
Exactly.
To it. The tough part is that you don't get their emails, so you can only send them messages through the LinkedIn newsletter platform. Yeah. Maybe a little bit not kosher, maybe a little bit in like gray area, but there are tools like Phantom Buster that you can use to scrape some percentage of those emails and bring them into like your own newsletter or your own sales funnel or whatever it may be. In my experience, you can get somewhere between 25 and 40% of the email, so it's not negligible.
Yeah, in terms of advice, I think it would vary greatly on who you are and what stage you're at. I like Ali Abdal's kind of 3-part framework. He has get going, get good, get smart. If you are interested in doing this and you're not currently posting anything, I don't care what you write about, just write and post it. as Ali likes to say, he's a YouTuber, and his whole thing is the first 50 videos are for you, and the next 50 are for your audience. So, and he's just like,
Good.
That's great.
I will gladly give you advice, but I won't do it unless you have 50 videos on your account. So just start going. And once you are actually going, then you can focus on getting good. And getting good depends greatly on who you are. There's a ton to do with growing a personal audience. There's copywriting. Copywriting is a career that people have for their entire lives. You have to learn the psychology of what makes content good. You have to learn hooks. You have to learn how to keep people engaged. Then there's the networking side of it, reaching out, messaging people, the sales. And so I teach a cohort course for growing an audience. And I'd say the number one problem that people have, besides just writing good stuff, is just figuring out what the hell am I even writing about? It is hard because you also it needs to be something that you're willing to write about for a long time. It needs to be related to something that you sell or could sell or would want to sell. Is it the kind of business you would want to run? And then you have to think about it. Say I was an SEO expert. I could just write about SEO deeply, but SEO, other peers are not the one that are going to be buying it. It'd likely be founders of companies. So I need to write about it in such a way that a founder would find it interesting, rather than my peers, because the peers are not going to buy it from me. So there's a ton to it, and it really depends on what your stage is, what your goals are. Do you already have a business and then you're trying to just get more leads to, or are you currently working inside of a company and you're just trying to grow an audience so that you have more optionality? So it's a huge topic.
Yeah, and so expanding on that, from my perspective, there's the big fear and of putting yourself out there, and also trying to figure out what do I post about, which is one thing. And then all three of you have been incredible at being extremely consistent with your posts, and hoping you can share with these with the audience here, how do you guys remain consistent on a daily basis posting, and are there strategies or tools that you guys use that you can recommend to folks?
Well, I would say most people who are consistent have a variety of times where they started and stopped. So I had that. I posted 3 years ago. I had things go viral. It's even in my journey of restarting 15 months ago, I started posting for 3 weeks and then I didn't. And the only reason I started again because I was on a team call and my co-founder said, "Oh, and Neal's been doing a great job posting consistently on LinkedIn." And I knew that I hadn't in 3 weeks, so I felt like an idiot, and I immediately started posting again. So I find what really helps me is that I don't even consider it an option anymore that I'm not posting a certain number of times per week. It's not even something I consider as me not doing. The other is that because I've been doing it for a while, I've made friends with a lot of people who are doing it every day, and I see them posting every single day without question. So it's in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he says, join a community where your desired behavior is the norm. If your friends are all doing the thing that you're doing, or you want to do, you're more likely to keep doing it. If all of your friends and peers think you're strange for posting on LinkedIn, you're probably not going to do it.
So I had Jonas said, is there optimal posting frequency? Is it really every single day? I would say first just start out. I mean, it's not realistic to post every day starting out, especially if you're not comfortable with it. It's like anything, you got to kind of ease into it. If starting out is 2 times a week, that's better than nothing. I've been posting daily videos for I don't know how many years now. When I started out, I was just doing the videos myself. I was posting a lot of them with my phone. I recorded, I would shoot the video, and I multi-purpose. I would take one video and I would post it to my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my now X, not Twitter. And I would just multi-purpose all platforms and just use the same video. And so now what I do is I will still post to my own platforms personally, but I do have a team in place. We have editors, we have people that are working with us. I will batch my work, and that works better for some people. Once or twice a month, I'll shoot 20 to 30 videos, real style, just my phone, And then I'll have on a, I don't know, bi-monthly, quarterly basis, we'll shoot a professional shoot. I'll knock out a bunch of video content. I'll send it to the team, and then they have that content, and then they'll post it every day for me. So I'll be on a plane. It could be posted out while I'm still kind of posting on my side. So that's 1 to 2 videos a day. I think the biggest thing is batching. Get in a habit, starting with something, getting a couple out a week, and eventually you could work towards the daily video content. And then be entertaining and actually provide great content. Don't just get on the camera and talk for no reason. Have an actual story behind it. And there's 2 sides of this. There's a story of telling stories around how you bring value in business, and then around your story, because I don't know who mentioned it here before, people buy from people. So tell stories around who you are as a person, what you stand for. People will buy into that. And one other thing, just want to touch on here, because somebody asked it, if you have 2 co-founders, do you each build a personal brand? What do you do? My opinion is you each personally as co-founders build your own personal brand. You're talking about what you do in the business, and also share your own background, because other people are going to connect with you or the other co-founder based on their own experiences. And then you have the brand of the business. So there's 3 brands being built, each co-founder 1, co-founder 2, and then the business. Yeah, so there's my thoughts around that.
I think a great example of a business that has done that very well is Basecamp 37 Signals. They have Jason Fried and DHH. Both of them have 300,000 followers. They both have similar but different ideas. I will say that if you're on this call and your co-founder isn't, you're probably going to be more motivated to do it. And it is impossible to get somebody else to do this unless they're internally motivated to do it. It is a lot of effort, consistent effort and motivation and determination to do this on a consistent basis. And you can't force somebody to do that. So.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what was said. Batch everything that you can, even if it's just a Sunday night once a month, and then schedule it out. Someone asked about repurposing content. Yeah, totally would recommend repurposing content. Would recommend tweaking things, wordings, phrasings, different styles of the post every few months. Don't post the same thing next week if someone just saw it from you, even if it's phrased differently. They'll we both over and underestimate how much people remember our content, I feel like. But yeah, I would echo basically everything that's been said here so far. The one thing I'd add is that it's good and it's better to have multiple co-founders, multiple people on the team who do have personal brands for the reasons that we were talking about, but don't do that if it's at the detriment to the business, right? If someone is not able to sufficiently batch that time or set that time aside to do it, and it's impacting their work, obviously driving awareness and driving impressions can impact demand, which is great. But if that's meaning that less, product is getting shipped or more customers are churning or something like that, view it as a net, not just as a let's get everyone out there and that's top priority.
Yeah.
Another for repurposing, look at your lifestyle. So like I'll go on podcast shows or I'll speak at events. I always request to get the recording of it. So like I was just on a couple shows in LA. They post it and I get access to, let's say, the 45-minute interview that's fully produced. And then what I'll do is I'll have my team take it and turn it into 10 to 15 different reels, which are 45 to 60, 90 seconds long. So repurposing content you already shot. And then if you're speaking on stage at an event, get the video asset. I always ask to get the video asset or say, hey, like that's a kind of a leverage point. Like I want the video asset to repurpose that content. And then also you can, if multiple people are in the video, multiple influencers, they both can share to their pages. So you're tapping to their audience. But that's just one thing I've done. And then there was a question about, you post a video, then you post 2 months later, 3 months. I have some videos I'll post a couple times a month. There are some videos that are evergreen based on a timely event that I've posted probably 15 times in its 5-year career. Well, I'll take a video. I have it in my folder on my phone. I have 60,000 items, literally videos from 10 years ago that were saved. And I'll categorize them and I'll go back. And let's say I'll give you an example. I have a video I do every year during when people are graduating from college. And I have advice to college students. Here's what you do after you graduate. And every year in May, I post that same video because it's a timely hook. And so just a couple thoughts on repurposing and taking content once and putting it out there. And then the next step is also, if you want to do paid advertising, if you have a video that turns out very well and really resonates with people, put money behind it so you can get in front of more people.
So Annie had a question about building a business's brand, and I think as part of that question, there's a larger point around tactics and strategies that can be deployed. And I think one question is, how much do you guys try and optimize for like posting at the right time or posting with a specific trick? And are there any that you'd highly recommend to the audience to do? And what are some of the ways that a business can help like kickstart a brand from the ground up?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off here. I'm sure we all have thoughts here, but I'll kick it off. If you have to think about when to post, it makes it that much more difficult. So I like tools like Taplio, where you can set a time slot for different days of the week, and all you do is write the post and you schedule it into the next time slot, and you know when it's going to go live, and you can be there to engage when it does go live. But you don't need to think about like, oh, let me go to LinkedIn and write a post right now. LinkedIn's scheduling tool exists, but it's not as good as something like Taplio, which has like, AI recommendations for how well it thinks this post will perform compared to past posts that you've made that have performed well and poorly. So there's a lot of good value in a tool like that. The other thing is, the cold start problem for a brand account is really hard. The cold start problem for a personal account is also hard, but it's even harder for a brand account because, to the point that we've been making, people want to follow people, not brands. So kind of the dirty secret of a lot of big creators' growth is that it comes from relationships, right? They initially were those reply guys who were commenting under people's posts. Those people recognized them after a while. They started forming a relationship through DMs with that person, and then they got them to engage with their own content. Typically, that only happens if you build relationships over a long period of time. So we're trying to change that with what we're doing at Megaphone, where, we're making big creators accessible to comment on anybody's content, because we know that that's the main driver of impressions and of followers and of growth. So that's that's a personal thing I'm passionate about changing.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of our most successful students from our course, he's at 270,000 followers now. Started in January. His name's Eric Partaker. So the ingredients that he had were just like so obvious that he would do well. So he is a CEO coach that makes 7 figures working 2 days a week. He was ranked CEO of the year. He's 48, has all kinds of career in marketing and copywriting. And because he's a leadership coach, he uses his high value skill to trade with very large creators because, they all make $2-3 million a year. And he can help them either be more performant or to do it more efficiently so that they can have more time with their family, right? And, he trades that, and they just post on and they just comment on his stuff. So he leveraged his unique ability to exchange with these people to do that. And then, he only works 2 days a week and he makes 7 figures. He can pay for a really nice designer. He can spend 3 days of the week just like really focusing on writing really great stuff. So, a huge part of it is just kind of leveraging your unfair advantage. If you're just starting out, I say do whatever the hell you can to just grow it, because there are unfortunately psychological thresholds. If somebody like Justin Welsh, 400,000 followers, he could just like slam some things on the keyboard, press go, and he'll get 200 likes because people will think it's funny that he did that, or they'll think there's some sort of genius behind it. And if they end up his page, he might just end up hitting the follow button without thinking. If you've got 100 followers and you say something genius, then it's like no one wants to be the first one at a party, and they might think that it's the one smart thing you're ever going to say. So they're probably not going to hit follow. So using these like automatic outreach to send connection requests to your target audience, especially leveraging potential communities. Like I did YC, so I started doing it. Other YC founders, you're kind of shamed if you're not nice to other YC founders. I did founders within Vancouver. It's a smaller tech community, more likely to accept from another founder in Vancouver. And then once you have those, you can, that kind of helps you jumpstart from 100 followers and get you to the more psychological thresholds. So.
To add to that, I mean, if I'm just thinking the question, if let's say I started over tomorrow on LinkedIn, what would I do? I would create up my profile, have professional headshots and video assets, a great appealing appearance. And I would have let's say the job experience, what projects I've worked on. And then I would post a video a day, just kind of sharing who I am, what I do. And then I would focus on, let's say, maybe 5 high touch points a day with people that I want in my world. Maybe they're ideal clients, maybe they're influencers I want connected with. I would look at their profile. I would actually take the time to respond to their videos, watch them, give them just good comments like he said before. And then after, let's say, a couple weeks time, I would then send them a DM, and I would have a real DM, not an auto bot. And I would mention something I liked about a video they had. I would try to find a commonality. If we went to the same school, grew up in the same state, whatever it is, that commonality. So it's speaking right to them and maybe something they accomplished. So then they know it's like a real response. Those are the ones I always respond to. Yep. And that would be my strategy. And if you can get into the connections of the different influential people, or even get video assets with those influencers and post on social media, that association will make it a lot easier for those other people that don't know you to want to connect with you.
Yeah, the social proof that, established accounts with known and trusted personal brands can bring to your account, even if your account only has 10 followers or something like that, is huge. It's not just the impressions you get from their audience, it's also the co-opting of their social proof.
Yeah. It's funny how readily people will say yes to being invited to a podcast, even if and they won't often ask how many listeners that podcast even has. And that's one way to associate yourself with that person, because you have a video of you talking with them. And then also
that's a great point.
You have the ability, you just sat down with them for 30 minutes, an hour, you've built some sort of connection.
The quickest way, another way, is just what you said. I mean, if you say, hey, will you come on my show and I'll share your message with my audience, they likely aren't going to ask. I mean, my stipulation always is, hey, can you make it 30 minutes or less? And then I say, hey, are you going to get the video footage? So that is another way to strategically connect with somebody, because you're bringing value to them. Hey, I'm going to share you to my audience. You may only have one listener at the beginning, but again, they don't usually ask that.
No.
Yeah, and then they have that content, the video that they can use forever for them about the value of sharing that with their own audience and getting it amplified by their own.
It's also a lot of these creators, especially if you're grown on LinkedIn, you've probably mostly done it via text, and you're just like, oh, I should really start going on podcasts. Oh, I should get into video. So sometimes they're just happy to have some sort of practice before they're asked to go on My First Million or something, and they'd be terrified because they've never done a podcast before, and 1 million people are going to listen to it. So, yeah.
So that's a great point. And I think trying to identify these folks who are already established and getting in touch with them, potentially interacting with them in some way, what are ways that you guys have leveraged other communities or community leaders to actually generate content? It sounds like podcasts have been successful for you guys. Are there any other tips that you can provide people for how to actually engage with these folks, and maybe on top of that, getting prepared for actually doing video content? I know that's one thing. Brandon in particular specializes with helping people, but we're also curious your guys' thoughts on video content versus text content versus the various different carousels and images. What do you think is valuable there?
To answer that last one, I say do whatever one you're going to be most comfortable with, and just do that one until you're extremely good at it. I'm guessing for Brandon, he does, he's video sounds like his bread and butter, so he should do that. For me, I'm not a video person, so I started with writing, and I have a background in web development and design. So me making carousels in Figma was easy, and I thought for me it was beneficial, because then my copywriting has to be less on point, because I can rely on visuals, I can rely on pacing of slides. So I went with the thing that I was really good at. I think when you start doing something, you see somebody way larger than you. They're posting, Alex Tramosi is posting on every single account. doing it all formats. It's because he's got a team that he spends 6 figures on per year to do all that for him.
Or 7.
Or 7. Yeah, exactly. So just choose one, get extremely good at it, one channel. And once you're extremely good at that, like Justin Welsh just did LinkedIn text, basically never posted an image. And then once he had 300,000 followers, he decided to do Twitter. And because at that moment, a lot of people on Twitter wanted to grow on LinkedIn. So he exchanged. It's like, hey, you amplify my stuff on Twitter, I'll amplify your stuff on LinkedIn. And then he just reused all of his top hits from LinkedIn.
So a couple thoughts here. It's one, just so anybody listening, if you're starting out, I don't want you to get overwhelmed because a lot of people think, oh, I need 1,000, 10,000, million followers. You only need 100 of the right followers to have $1 million business, $1 million a year business. So you just need the right followers to know that in your content. Who do you want it to speak to? Who's your ideal content? And that can determine some of the case studies you share in your videos, who you're speaking directly to, that niche. That's one side. And the other side, I know where I got brought up about just like videos with other people. And I look at influencers. How can you create video assets with other known influencers, names, brand names, but also groups? Like we talked about Y Combinator. We talk about other groups out there. I'm going blank. Techstars or anyone like that. If you can have some kind of association with that, that's powerful. For me, what I did about a decade ago, I started doing events. And one of the values for me was I brought in these speakers. I've had Jason Calacanis, I've had Sharks, I've had all these people, but I would interview them on stage with me interviewing them. And I had that association. So I would take that video asset, I would highly produce it, I would edit it, give it to them. So if they want to post it, they can. If not, I will post it myself on social media or LinkedIn specifically. And I would tag them and it would show me having a conversation with them, just like a podcast show or a video interview, which gave me association and credibility for people that had come to my page. So how can you tie yourself to a known brand or different influencer with content?
Yeah, I see Jonah's question in the chat here about how much thought should be put into posts and about how it can be daunting and you feel like you have to make the perfect post, the first impression with your audience. I totally empathize with that. I was the same way before I really started getting into my groove with content. A hack you can use to kind of get around that is, again, find the couple accounts who have the followers you want, right? So they're in your niche. They're posting content regularly, and just, have a VA. If you don't have a VA, definitely go find a VA. You can use a service like Support Shepherd or Oceans or Athena or something like that. Or even just find one yourself on onlinejobs.ph for like $5 an hour. They're great. You just have to vet them. But have a VA go through the entire history of that person's posts on LinkedIn or even on Twitter. You can bring them over and put them in a spreadsheet, right? The text of the actual posts and the URL to the posts, maybe some engagement statistics about how many reactions it got, how many replies it got, how many reshares. And then all of a sudden you have a database of successful content in your niche with the accounts who have the followers that you want. So you know what resonates with the followers you want. And then you can say, okay, this post from Brandon's account did really, really well. But it was like a year and a half ago. Let me take that, but tweak it to be in my voice, to add my own perspective to it. So you're not just copying the text and pasting it. Add your flair to it, change up the style a little bit, experiment, and then schedule it and post it and see how it does. If you know that content's going to resonate with people in your niche, it can really help you get over that stage fright, that anxiety about building your personal brand the right way.
Yeah. Totally.
Another way to get over the feeling is just post the fucking video. At the end of the day, like, you can get in your head about, it's going to be right, wrong. People are going to judge you either way. Just post it. Some of the videos that I didn't think about and posted, I don't know who mentioned before that was the one that went viral. Yeah. I have a video that was so randomly and it got 6 million views, and it was something that was not planned. It was posted and it just happened to touch the right emotion points that work. So sometimes you just like post enough content and something's going to click.
Yeah. And sometimes if you spend a lot of time and re-edit and edit, it kind of loses whatever sort of magic of, it doesn't read like you're just casually saying it or anything. It feels
so forced. Some of the videos that are off the cuff that aren't highly produced actually perform the highest And some of the campaigns is we'll put money behind them. The ones that are like just cell phone style, that are like kind of look not that good, actually perform better. And I don't understand it, but it's what it is.
It's the authenticity angle, man. People want to.
Yeah, it's authenticity. It's realness.
Yeah, it's
So-
also in terms of like, I saw somebody saying I post once, I go 3 days because you don't know what to write about. And I mean, you can, like, if you have a niche, like you can literally post about that and write about the same thing in like 1,000 different ways. I think the best example is James Clear. He's been writing about habits for 11 years or something. Like that's when I first discovered him. It was 11 years ago. And he's said basically the same thing with like tweaked examples, tighter and tighter copy. And you know what? When he actually finally produced his book, it was basically just him taking things from all these articles and tweets and newsletters that he wrote that he saw that people liked, and he just like weaved them into a book format. And he knew that everything was the book was gonna do well because he tested literally everything in it. And you know, people stay subscribed to him for years because he just is saying. Sometimes people can hear the same thing 500 times, but until it's said at the exact right time in the exact right way, it doesn't fully hit. So
it could take one piece of content or one video specifically that draws the right emotion with them, that makes them connect with you on such a level that makes them DM you, which leads to the thing. And I think I do written, I do video, I do all the different ones. The reason why I like videos so much is I think it's the best way to communicate a story, but it's actually proven when people can see your eyes, they're more likely to trust you when they see your hands and facial expressions. If you're smiling, they see you as a nicer person. This is, by the way, this is because we're bored. If your hands are behind your back for thousands of years, we think, oh, they got a weapon. You can see my hands, you see me smiling. There's more emotion that draws, which I think gives it more competitive edge to really connect with that person.
interesting.
Super interesting. So I think we talked about like, you know, some investments that folks have made, like whether folks can make, whether it's like professional headshots, whether it's going to Megaphone and, you know, getting a popular creator to boost their post, or, you know, paying for a mastermind. Like, what are some investments like in your personal self, whether it's like copywriting or any of these things that you guys would recommend to folks who are getting started?
I'd say read a bunch. You know, I'm one of those classic stubborn people who will advise other people to do the right thing, and then I won't myself. So like I taught myself to program, and then if anybody asks me how they should become a programmer, I say go do a boot camp. Yeah. So I would say like what I did was I just consume a lot of marketing books, and every single day I would just like pop open, as Michael said, just go through. Like Readwise has this great page that is just, it ranks all of the top creators based on the number of times that somebody has tagged Readwise, which is basically they just saves their tweet or their thread in their account so they can review it later. So it's basically like ranking the top creators. You just go through them and use a tool like Tweemex, which shows you their top tweets of all time, and just click through them and just try to reverse engineer how are they writing that I'm not writing? Like what's different about what they're doing than what I'm doing? And it's really hard to articulate exactly what it is. Like I'll scroll through LinkedIn and I'll see somebody trying to use a hook. I can tell that they're trying to be clever and get me to read it, but whatever way that it's worded, I just don't care. Whereas the next one, I'm just like finding myself clicking see more without thinking about it. And I couldn't articulate exactly what was different about them, but essentially you look at these a ton over and over again, and you're basically updating the neural network of your brain to be able to recognize and be able to replicate it. So just studying the hell out of what other people are doing, because there is a particular way that works on social that wouldn't necessarily, like I don't fill my newsletter with that same sort of writing. I don't I don't write blog articles the same way. I'm not going to text my mom in the exact same way. There's different style of writing that works for each thing.
And so for those who aren't familiar with Neal, like Neal posts a ton of content specifically around like frameworks that people use, to be successful with their copywriting. So definitely recommend following him on Neal O'Grady on LinkedIn. Like frameworks that people are successful. I saw someone ask Neal for like a book recommendation or like any recommendations on that front that are specific for folks.
To add to what he said, I think you're 100% right. I mean, we all starting out, you got to invest in, let's say, books, audiobooks, invest in your brain, invest in your knowledge, studying other people. Another investment, and somebody mentioned Alex Hormozy. I'm doing the same thing Alex is, just I'd probably not put as much money as he's put in right now, investing in video content and being very specific, investing in videographers, a full-time person, investing in editors, investing in people that can create reels for you and repurposing content, investing eventually into high production shoots. There's a time and place for that, for evergreen content, for first impressions. But that's one side. And then the other one, which I'm doing more of, is how can you invest in relationships and influencer marketing to tap into bigger audiences. If you can have that brand association in content and repurpose that, people trust this person, they like this person, and they see you guys together, it's a lot likely they're going to follow you and they're going to resonate with you in some way. So investing in relationships, and then how can you get on video with that relationship or create a podcast show together? And then you look at eyeballs, attention is our thing. How can you reach more people? There's only so much you can do organically. Putting money behind paid advertising, specifically, I don't have any experience doing LinkedIn paid advertising, but from Facebook to Instagram to YouTube, doing paid ads, even TikTok, to reach more people, to get in front of more eyeballs, which converts more followers, which in the long term, you're getting more people who are going to buy your products and services.
Yeah, we've experimented with paid advertising on LinkedIn, and it's much higher in terms of both CPA,
it's a high cost, yeah,
and in terms of CPA than you get from other platforms, which makes sense. It's a business platform; they want to gate it a little bit, but that's what we try to do. That's why Megaphone works so well on LinkedIn, because you get those impressions, you get that social proof, Brandon, that you're talking about, from having those big creators engage with your account, engage with your content. So that's what we try to do. But I think in general, like I personally, and maybe this is a bit of a contrarian take, but I don't get a lot of value from doing a ton of like reading about the materials and how to succeed on certain platforms. For me, that doesn't work. My learning style is more like, let me see the feedback, let me see the data, and then let me sort of reverse engineer it, or let me try to tweak it. So in my opinion, the best feedback is data, actual response from posting on the platform. And so if you don't feel comfortable posting yourself, or if you don't have a big enough follower base to get true feedback, a big enough sample size, then I would say just look at those accounts in your niche who are successful, who do have tons of impressions on their content, and take the feedback signals from them about what topics, what phrasings, and what content styles resonate with the audience that you want. That's probably the feedback that I would take in.
How do you craft stuff to actually get it like outside of your network? Right. Like, I think like for me, it was like, adding hashtags, right, is like ways people discover your stuff. Like, how is discoverability on LinkedIn? Like, if you write the right stuff, will other people kind of outside of your network see it? Do only your connections see it? I think that's kind of like a black box for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, the platform first looks at really two things: the size of the accounts and like the relative like love that those accounts have. So do they have good engagement? So if an account with good engagement engages with your content, their followers are going to see it. A higher percentage of their followers are going to see it than if an account with low engagement engages with your content. The second thing is that they really look at your followers too. So, getting engagement from accounts that don't follow you can expose you to new audiences. The posts that really, really go viral are posts that have love from their own audience too. So if you're posting something, they show it to 1,000 people who follow you, or even 100 people who follow you. If a very high percentage of those people engage, it's going to have a higher likelihood of showing up in like the news feed auction, basically, to other people, either inside or outside of your network.
So one thing that LinkedIn has said with their recent algorithm updates is that every time something goes viral, they consider it to be a loss. So they very specifically want things to only be seen by the specific people that it would be interesting to. So what they look at is this post resonating with founders of internet startups? Great, we'll show it to founders of other founders of internet startups. And so the similarity of the people that are engaging. So it's just like if a bunch of engineers started loving one of my posts, it's going to be seen by more and more engineers and less of, say, my target audience. So that's one thing. It's just similarity, and that's like creating, like focusing on people who are in your niche and kind of targeting the same people as you is important, because if you have a friend but he talks about like building muscle and he starts commenting on your stuff, that's probably not going to be, and you talk about SEO, that's probably just not the right people. And to respond to Tracy's question about what you do if your content becomes popular with an audience that isn't your ideal client, such as your peers rather than your buyer, I would say like your peers are probably going to be interested in more like advanced topics. You know, if you're talking about SEO, they're going to be looking for the advanced shit. Whereas the founder just generally is like, I know nothing about this. I'm just trying to figure it out. And so that could be one thing, just like dumb it down to somebody who has zero experience. And your peers probably won't like it because it'll be too basic for them, but your buyer probably will like it.
And so, you know, all three of you have courses, programs that are very much related towards, you know, creating content, building a personal brand. Can you guys share like kind of success stories from folks that have worked with you? And I guess this is like a good opportunity for shameless plugs, but I think everyone on here is like, you know, kind of bought into wanting to build a personal brand. And yeah, you know, I personally, I've interacted with all three of you and gotten great value out of kind of your content. And so, yeah, just want to share that with the folks who are on the call.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, thanks, Jesse. I'm glad to hear that.
That's what we call a softball question.
I actually don't have any like courses. I probably should make one, but with Megaphone, you know, we've had folks go from 0 to 2,500 followers in 24 hours. And we've had folks go from 0 to 13,000 followers in a week. This is multiple folks who've had this type of experience, just putting good content through the network. And this isn't just with personal accounts. This is actually with company pages as well. Just to talk a little bit about company pages really quick. I actually think there's a big opportunity in company pages right now on LinkedIn, even though it's tougher to get folks to connect with the brand. The difference with a company page and a personal page on LinkedIn is that a personal page, your content gets dampened if you post too many posts within a 24-hour period. That doesn't happen to anywhere near the same degree with a company page. You're allowed to sort of like spam your audience a little bit more. You know, this is to get brands using their tools on LinkedIn a bit more, so that LinkedIn's incentivized to continue letting you do this. Right. So yeah, we've seen that both with personal accounts and company accounts going from 0 to, you know, anywhere from 8,000 to 13,000. Thinking about multiple examples.
That's cool. Yeah, so we run a course called Unignorable. It's a cohort course. It's not particularly a great time for me to pitch it because we're probably not going to do a cohort for many months, and we're probably going to shift how it looks. But in terms of, you know, we've been doing audience building courses for, I don't know, 2-3 years. First one was with Sahil Bloom. Some of the creators that came out of that, you know, Zane Khan, he's got like 101.5 million followers. He had literally created his account during the course. So, you know, he runs like a 300,000 subscriber newsletter now. Amanda Nat over 100,000, Nathan Baugh over 300,000, David Klein over 100,000, 150,000. And then recently in the last 6 months, we've had Eric Partager go from 20,000 to 270,000. Alex Smith, he wrote a great book that I've been loving, No Bullshit Strategy, but he went from, I remember I was celebrating, he just hit 1,000 followers, and then he continued to scream into the void for a couple more months. And then next time I looked, he had 30,000 because he got 20,000 plus from one post. And then he sold out his book launch and all of that. So,
Nice.
but yeah, it's, you know, we don't typically, I think those are anomalous. Those people are like near 50 and have tons of a huge career. The average experience is people just like are slowly learning and trying to figure out what they're writing about and getting better. And ultimately, like, yeah, we had way more success with the first one because they continue to have, that was 2 to 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had more people grow. And that's the more common experience, is that it takes years.
So for me, I mean, follow me. Let me know what you think of my content. If it's shit, tell me. I don't think it is, but hey, share your feedback, what you learned. Direct message me. I respond to my own messages. So I'm at Branded T Adams everywhere. For my company, so Accelerate Media Group, we build and scale brands. We've worked, I mean, with a lot of big names. One of my main business partners, Kevin Harrington, Original Shark and Shark Tank. We've worked with John Lee Dumas. We've done some of the biggest book campaigns. We've launched podcast shows. We've launched TV shows. We've launched video content. It's all around helping people build and scale their brands. And then the other side of what I do is I love seeing how we can use paid advertising to take it, let's say, spending $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month, getting 2 to 3 to 4 return on ad spend, and really scaling a company. I enjoy public companies, private companies. That's my fun time in the startup world. But yeah, that's what I do. And I always welcome a very fun conversation like this. Feel free to reach out to me, and happy to help or direct you to a great book.
Do you have an Emmy anywhere nearby that you can show us?
Oh, there they are.
Oh, there we go.
The Emmy always has to be within arm's reach at all
Yeah,
times.
it wasn't this one. Obviously got moved, but yeah, there's 4.
It's actually in his suitcase. Yeah.
Awesome,
by
guys.
the way,
Well,
fun fact, you wouldn't believe how many people that would say on an ad that said, "Oh, those are fake."
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay.
Brandon, we trust you, man. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So just want to thank everyone for attending. So I'll send out a follow-up note with links to all these guys, LinkedIn's and some of their offerings, like Megaphone, Demand Curve, Rise and Record. And yeah, hope this was valuable for everybody. And thank you again to Brandon, Neal, and Houck, Michael Houck, for joining. And we'll look forward to hosting more sessions on Bookvid. And yeah, hope everyone got some value out of today.